Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people. I think art and creativity make the world go around, make the tough times bearable, endurable, and we are certainly in them now. And so I love talking to people who are doing that in spite of all the obstacles. So today my guest is a playwright. His name is Robert Axelrod. He has written a wonderful play called Lifeline, which is currently being performed at the Road Theater in North Hollywood. Here's a little synopsis of it. In the aftermath of an unforeseen life-changing event, Patty, a well-meaning mother, becomes a volunteer at a suicide hotline. So it's kind of about what it's like at a Trevor Project-like hotline, how the training works, the different people who are volunteering or trying to become volunteers. And there's all of these different characters that are part of the mix. And Robert does such a good job of giving them all, rich, dimensional characters and showing what this world is like. And there's humor in it, and there's cringy moments, and then there's hope. And it's just beautiful. And I was very inspired by it. And I just heard that it got extended, which is amazing. So definitely go and see it. But before we get to the interview, I want to remind you that this podcast is something I do because I love it. But if you want to support it, help me cover my expenses, there are a few things you can do. You can go to DennisAnyone.net and leave a tip in my virtual tip jar. You can also subscribe to my spin-off podcast, which is called Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. It's on both Patreon and Substack. The content is the same on both. It's $5 a month. And I talk about, pop culture and things that I talk about on the podcast, but I also try to end with a little nugget about happiness. What makes people happy? I'm very interested in that topic. And so it's a special thing. It's a little different, but you can search for Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay on Patreon and Substack. It's the same. And I try to have a free episode every month or so. So if you want to just check it out and see what it's like, there's one episode where I read letters that Gwyneth Paltrow wrote to me back when I interviewed her in the 90s. And I read them for the first time in 30 years while I live. And I was so struck by them. So even if you just go there and look for letters from Gwyneth, it's worth it. Because it's so, I just was like, I'm still like Twitter-pated from the Gwyneth of it all. Anyway, it was cool. She was cool. The other thing you can do is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of gay shows under the Derek and Romaine podcast banner. And for a monthly fee, you get my show early and you get all these other great queer shows. So learn about that at DNR Studios. All right, that's enough of the plugs. No, it isn't. It's not enough. My game Search Party, the party game that I created, is now in. I have a bunch of them in my garage. They're not available to buy yet on Amazon. We're working on that. But you can order them through my website for the games that I do called youdon'tknowmylife.com. And then just look for Search Party. youdon'tknowmylife.com/Search Party. You can order one that way. I will get it in the mail to you. It's a really fun game. You can play with your phone and searching for fun pictures with your friends. It's irreverent. And the box and the design is adorable. I love it. I'm really proud of it. All right. That's enough for the plugs. Here now is my interview with Robert Axelrod. Joining me now from here in Los Angeles, it's playwright Robert Axelrod. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Dennis.
I loved your show Lifeline, and I heard it just got extended. Is that right?
It did, yes. We're thrilled to be extending to March 14th. So, happy to have more people get the chance to see it. 2
more weeks, and I'm really glad because I've been telling everybody about it. How would you describe the show to someone that knows nothing about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Lifeline is sort of an optimistic dramedy about a group of volunteers at a suicide hotline. It sort of follows the journey of a mother who is a little bit older than the other volunteers in her cohort as she is reeling from a personal tragedy in her own life and is trying to find her way through in life. And it's about how all of these different volunteers are going through this training process to become crisis counselors on a suicide hotline. And something different brought each person into the room. And yet they're all there together on day one, undergoing training together, trying to figure out what it's like to help people on a hotline.
And I understand that you volunteered at the Trevor Project for a while, and that was where the inspiration came from. Can you talk about that time?
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience as a volunteer. I was there for a couple of years, and the training there is extremely intensive, as it is for, a variety of different organizations with similar types of resources. And I think it's so important to know that the people who you might be calling into are extremely well trained and have gone through several rounds of interviews and, just different vetting processes before they even get to the training, which is wonderful, because then by the time you're taking calls on the line yourself, you're really prepared for any type of call you might receive. And I thought that there was something really unique and special about the training process and about the variety of different types of people who were volunteering alongside me. And I just thought there might be a play here. I just felt that like there was something unique about being in the same room as all of these different types of people, very similar to what it's like when you're an audience member seeing a play, where you're surrounded by a bunch of different types of people. Everybody is there from a different background, a different lived experience, but everybody is there to experience the same thing. As an audience, you're there to experience a play. As a volunteer, for a suicide or crisis hotline, you're there to help other people. But there was something that felt familiar and that same kind of magical quality. And I thought there might be something here. And so I sort of sat with that idea, and that sort of birthed Lifeline over time.
Was it stressful volunteering like that? How did you feel going into it? Especially after you trained so much, it must have been kind of like, okay, I guess it's the real thing now. What was it like?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a certain level of stress just in terms of the importance and significance of the types of calls you might be receiving. And yet I feel like the training is so intensive that by the time I was taking calls myself, I felt so prepared and almost over prepared in a way. You're prepared for all different types of calls, and so you really are able to rely on the training that you've received, rely on the other counselors and volunteers around you to help as well. It really is a team effort. If there's a call where you're struggling to find resources for that person, or you're hitting a block, you can message somebody else who's also on the line. And so there was never a feeling of complete isolation or being completely on my own. And so that kind of shared communal response to helping other people, I think, also instilled a lot of confidence in me, just to know that I wasn't alone helping these people who were calling in, and just to know that these people are making a choice to call in. They're calling in a time of crisis or in a moment of needing some extra help. And my job and anyone's job on the line is just to be there for that caller as best as you can in that moment. And to try and establish a connection with a stranger on the other end of the phone, despite just being voices in the other person's ear. And there's something really special about that kind of connection. And I think just trying to be there with another person and to go from strangers to, special kind of acquaintances on the other end of the phone takes a little bit of the stress away, because you can't think about the stress. You can't think about the stakes. You can't think about anything else. You just have to focus on listening to that other person and being there for them in that moment. And that also helped, I think, alleviate some of the stress.
Do you remember specific callers or moments from that time when you were volunteering?
Yeah, there's so many different types of calls. I think one of the things that was eye-opening to me was that there are sometimes people who call because they've been having a hard time, and they're calling now because they actually had a really good day, and those are exciting calls to get too. Or, calls from people who have never called in before, aren't really even sure if this is the type of hotline they should be calling. They're not sure if their particular problem or reason for calling is deserving of calling it. And then you have people who call frequently, who sort of, this is a part of their daily life or weekly life, that this is a touch point for them and a resource that they rely on, and everything in between. And I think just being able to connect with callers allowed me to utilize different aspects of my own self or my own history or my own sort of quirks. I mean, I remember talking to people about hobbies of theirs that aligned with hobbies of mine, things that I hadn't thought of in years, or, talking about specific TV shows or musicians or artists that they liked, and being able to hear about new TV shows or books or whatever that then I went out to look into because a caller was so excited and passionate about talking about something that they were excited about. So, I mean, the variety of calls is really vast. And I think that's part of what makes it so unique, is that as a volunteer, as a crisis counselor, you're having to adapt to all different types of personalities, all different types of callers, all different types of backgrounds, and really learning how to just be present with those people as best as you can.
Yeah. And the characters that you have are so well developed. The actors are all sensational. Let's talk about the different characters, because they're all so different from each other. You have the two people that actually work there, Drew and Jen.
Yep.
Talk a bit about them.
Yeah. So Drew and Jen really are sort of the leaders of the training.
Right.
Jen is back after a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a break. And this is her first group back as a leader. And Drew is her boss, sort of superior. And he's there to kind of oversee her as she, is back in the saddle for the first time after a little bit of a break. And their job is to really train people who have no experience doing this, and to get them to a place where they are taking calls themselves, which we see by the end of the play. And so their job is to really take this group of volunteers who start as strangers, and to get them ready to take any type of call that might come into the line.
Well, you also hint at what it's like to work at one of these nonprofits and how budgets are always being cut. They used to have bagels. They don't have bagels anymore. And just the day-to-day of it. And every day is life and death. And how they're able to do it, it's very you get a bird's eye view into how this works, how it works, and what their day-to-day is like. There's Patty, the mother, who comes into the group. So good, so memorable. Talk a little bit about Patty and what moves you about her.
Yeah, Patty to me is sort of the embodiment of so many different maternal figures in my life. I really wanted to create a character who sort of felt out of place, but was there with the best of intentions. And I think so often in the world that we live in today, things advance and move so quickly that people are struggling to keep abreast of what the latest terminology is for things, what the best way to approach something is. And I think there's an interesting kind of inflection point where if we don't allow people the space to learn and grow, we run the risk of losing those people as allies. And I think that that's a scary thing. And so Patty to me really was sort of emblematic of mothers that I know in my own life from growing up who are supportive and progressive and trying their best and want to say the right things and do the right things, but just, are afraid of messing up a little bit. Yeah. And, I really thought it was important to show somebody who didn't let that fear of messing up prevent her from continuing to try, and to put her in an environment where people allow her to fail and learn and grow. And Patty to me is somebody who is, trying to find her footing, in sort of a unique chapter in her life, and is being exposed to people from different backgrounds from her own, and is learning to connect in new ways with new people, and is sort of the heart of the show in a way to me, and really carries this sense of hope amidst everything else in life that, as as difficult, as complicated, as tragic as life may be, hope doesn't necessarily replace or cancel out or negate any of those realities, but hope can still be present even in the midst of challenges, whether those are challenges about, getting to and from a place, or dealing with interpersonal dynamics in one's marriage, or dealing with family drama, whatever it might be. I think Patty really embodies this sense of hope and trying to, write a new chapter in a way that makes a difference. And I think, to me, I just have such an affection for Patty as a character, and Amy, who plays Patty, I think just really brings out that sense of vulnerability and open-heartedness that, to me, is sort of the essential element of that character.
She's so good. And I know, Amy, what's her last name?
Tolsky.
I know I've seen her in other things there where she was kind of like the secret sauce, or had a small, like, and for her to be the heart of the piece is so powerful, and she's so good. You talk about people being afraid to say the wrong thing. The first 10 minutes or so is just a bunch of people. You know what? I think that's a little triggering, or when you say that, I'm hearing this, and it's all that language that you could see people going, I can't deal with this let's go back 20 years. I can't, it's annoying.
Right.
And I'm always, and people are always afraid, and there's always somebody there to say, well, I'm hearing this, and you're like, and you nail that. How did you approach that? How did you think about it? Did you do any research? Like, cause it's like a minefield, and it's funny, but it's also like they say something and you're in the audience, you're going, oh, so-and-so's going to have a problem with that thing they just said, so how did you think about that opening and all of those minefields?
It's such a great question, and I'm glad that the humor came through for you as well, because I think that's important for the play.
Well, you see everybody squirming, and like the little looks they share with each other, and it's very believable. It's very now.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the thing for me that was crucial was that all of the sort of overcorrecting that people are doing, or the calling each other out, had to come from a genuine place of trying to be helpful.
Right.
That it wasn't coming from a place of criticism or I know better than you and therefore I win, but coming from this place of like, oh, I'm actually educating you. Here's some knowledge that I have that I'm going to impart on you. And I think that helped to keep this sense of humor, even amidst sort of the uncomfortable, squirmy, cringy dynamics of all of it. But I think that there is something really funny about people so desperately trying to always say and do the right thing. And of course we're going to mess up. We're humans. That's what happens inevitably.
Yeah.
And so I think when you create an environment where people are trying their best and are learning new things, and then you also layer on top of that the fact that there are people who are always kind of on alert for when other people mess up. There's a real sense of humor in that I think is fun and accurate, at least to different rooms and places I've been in.
No, and I'm a progressive person, and I get why some people find all of that stuff kind of annoying, the pronouns and the signatures and all that, the backlash to it, I guess, if you will. But also, it feels like as a culture, all of these things were sort of revealed to us in the last 10 years. All of these systemic fucked upness, like, oh, we're trying to counteract centuries of shit. Do you know what I mean? Like I think like this veil was lifted, and the volume and the history and the injustice of it all kind of landed on any people that were paying attention. And I think, we're just trying to find our way with it. But the avalanche of like, oh my God, look at all this shit we put up with for so long. Talk to me about the character of Kai, who's very fun and beautifully portrayed.
Thank you. Yeah, Kai for me is this very confident but sensitive queer Black character who I think is like a hopeless romantic at heart, and is really, really in my mind, sort of an interesting subversion of tropes that we may have seen with queer Black male characters on stage. I really wanted to portray somebody. Kai is a character who has two moms. Kai comes from a privileged background in many ways, but also is a queer Black man in America, which comes with a lot of challenges and disadvantages. And Kai sort of lives at the intersection of those realities. And I think exploring certain themes and topics that the play addresses, whether it's police brutality, interracial dating, queer romance and love, gender expression and identity, all of those different things seen through the lens of this particular character, to me was a way of exploring some of these topics in a way that might be coming from a character that you're not used to hearing, or that you might have preconceived notions about based on just looking at that character. But to really kind of see, we as humans contain multitudes of truths about ourselves. And I think Kai is really sort of somebody who has a bunch of seemingly conflicting truths and identities and experiences coursing through him at all times. And I think finding a way to give voice to that and to honor sort of the intersectionality of his identity was an important way of getting into some of these discussions in a way that felt new or nuanced, or perhaps, came at things a slightly different way.
Yeah. And the actor Clifton J. Adams is sensational. You also have Maya, played by, how do you say the name? Zoe. Zoe
Sazzle.
Yeah. Talk to me about Maya's character.
Maya is a trans woman of color who is in many ways sort of the one who I think is best set up for success as a volunteer by the end of the play. Maya is this shy but very smart, very perceptive individual who used to do field sound operating work for a news station down in Orlando, and worked on the day of the Pulse shootings.
That sequence is
sort
very
of an awakening
powerful.
Moment.
That sequence is very powerful, the way it's depicted. Yeah.
And I wanted to explore what it's like for a trans woman of color in today's world, and what that looks like in reality, and what that looks like in this particular character's reality. And to not have Maya be a spokesperson for all trans people, all trans women of color, but to have a really specific story for this particular character, and to see how that in some ways overlaps with other queer characters of color in the play, but also is different. And what does it look like to come from a lived trans experience in the queer community? And I think Maya is somebody who is really patient, and I think is really good at also pushing back and questioning things, but coming at it from a place of genuine curiosity, which are things that make somebody really, really great at being a volunteer on a crisis hotline. So Maya is somebody who, by the end of the play, I think is really going to do a wonderful job as a volunteer.
Yeah, and I was like, Maya's got it. She's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have Sarah Beth, who is beautifully portrayed by Naomi Rubin. Young.
Yeah.
Often gets eye rolls from other people, or even if they're not visible, often gets eye rolls from the audience. Talk to me about Sarah Beth.
Sarah Beth really is quite a difficult character to portray. Because Sarah Beth, in my mind, is somebody that the audience laughs at and is annoyed by.
And we all know one. We all know a Sarah Beth.
We all know a Sarah Beth. We all know a Sarah Beth. And there is such an eye roll of an experience whenever Sarah Beth opens her mouth. Before she even says anything, you're going to cringe.
Right.
And you need an actress who is capable of enduring audiences laughing, not with, but at her for the majority of the play, until this sort of pivotal turning point where you see where it's all coming from for her and why she feels so impassioned and so intent on correcting people and saying the right thing and doing the right thing. And suddenly it kind of clicks into place and you have an understanding, you have a context for where she's coming from. But to have an actress who is able to endure audiences sort of not necessarily being on her side for the majority of the play is a difficult task for an actress. And Naomi does such a wonderful job with it and really just brings such a sense of personality and dynamism to that role.
I get very moved in plays, especially plays like this. But the place I cried the most was the scene where Sarah Beth and Patty are having a conversation on a step.
Yeah.
I think about it, I get emotional, but there's something about the friendship of it. It's beautiful. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You write about people that aren't you. And there's always this discourse about who has the right to tell whose story. And you're doing it a bunch of times in this piece. How did you think about that? How is you like, I'm going to write a trans woman of color. I'm going to write someone who may be neurodivergent. I'm going to write somebody like, I'm going to do all of this. How did you think about it? Were you like, I better not screw up, or I better do my homework, or how did you approach it?
All of the above. I think for me, my approach is I may not have the same lived experience as any given character.
Right.
But I want to at least feel like I'm connected to the emotional truth of every character. I would get bored personally of just writing characters who have the exact same set of given circumstances as I do in my life. And so in terms of figuring out, okay, so what other characters can I write? I may not have the same experience of Patty, who's a mother, or Maya, who's a trans woman of color, or any of the people in the play, quite frankly. But I think that there are elements of truth to those characters, their fears, their hopes, their desires. Even if, something they experience in love is different than my own personal experience with love, there might be overlapping truths. I've never been married. Patty is someone who is married. Drew is someone who's married in the show. Sarah Beth is engaged. There's people at different types of places in their romantic lives, even just using that as an example. So there are things that I haven't experienced personally, but there is a sense of authenticity that I try to get to in terms of the emotional truth of those characters and really trying to invest in the reality of that character and doing my homework and doing my research and trying to, find people who may in their own lives more closely resemble the characters that I'm going for, to make sure that it feels authentic, that it feels real, that it doesn't feel manufactured or contrived or fake in any way. And I've been so fortunate to be working with a director and to be working with a cast of people who have been very willing to contribute and share and say, I think I might say it with this word instead of that word, or, here's something from my own experience that mirrors this, and being able to really hear from people and their own lived experiences and being able to sort of tailor the characters and the roles to those people has been extremely helpful. But in terms of writing people outside of sort of my own background, I think the thing that I'm always trying to get to is, what is my connection to the emotional truth of that character? Even if the given circumstances of their identity don't necessarily align with mine, what is a truth of how they see the world or how they experience the world that could even be just a small way of how I experience the world and is a big way of how they experience the world? But how can I tap into the truth of that experience as I've felt it and try and encapsulate that through that character?
Right. And but I admire that you were like, I want to examine these characters. I'm not going to be daunted by what people might say, or people might say that what do you know about being this or that? You like, your desire to tell this story this way was stronger than whatever those fears might have been. I'm taking a playwriting class. I just took it. It just finished. And I'd never written a play before. And I loved it so much. And I've always loved going to the theater. And sometimes I'll go to something and I'm like, okay, I'm in this path. I went to your show and I was like, oh, shit. This is so good. This is so thought through. Oh. This is so it's so purposeful. Like, it was daunting is a wrong word, but it was like, intimidating isn't right either. But it was like, oh, this was not like kind of dashed off and thrown up and it kind of had some magic or whatever. This was crafted and researched. Talk about how long this process was.
It's been quite a long process. I started writing this play about 5.5 years ago, and I've had the great fortune of being able to do a couple of staged readings of it over the years.
Right.
I'm in a couple of different writing groups. So, I have gotten notes on this play from, probably dozens of people at this point, and have had the chance to see it, presented by actors on their feet, in a staged reading context, which is so helpful to hear it out loud. So I feel like this has been sort of evolving over time, for several years now. And even like throughout rehearsals for the show, we were moving scenes around, we were rewriting things. I mean, it was really sort of a constant evolution of the play. Yeah. And just trying to figure out all of the different layers, all of the different things. Okay, is there a way to thread this through more throughout the play? Yeah. Or is this clear enough? Or is this scene working where it currently is? Or should we switch it with where this scene is? And, hopefully when people, and there have been people who have seen different stage readings of it and have now come to the production and can't even remember the order of the scenes in a different way, Right. And to me, that feels like the best part about collaborating is when you arrive at a place where it's like, this is what it needed to be all along. And it almost feels like it never could have been in a different way. Or how did you never have that scene in here before? Yeah. That feels essential, Yeah.
My instructor is named Bernardo Cubria, and he's done a show at the Road Theater. So do you know him, or have you heard of him? Is he somebody that's on your radar?
Yeah. I don't think he knows who I am, but I definitely know him. I know his work,
right?
Both as a writer and a director. But he's extremely talented. And one of the things that I love about his work as well is he does a great job of finding really authentic human stories that kind of straddle the line between comedy and drama. And I really love those types of plays as well. And I think there's something really character forward about his work.
Yeah.
So I'm very familiar with him.
Yeah. Well, I told him about your show last night because he was like, I was like, you have to go see it. But anyway, he talks about this thing that he does sometimes as he's developing. It's like, okay, I'm going to do a pass and just focus on Patty. I'm just going to think about Patty this pass. Or I'm going to do a pass and just focus on Kai or whatever. And I'm like, I'm at that point where I need to start doing those for certain other characters. Does that resonate with you? Do you think that way of like, okay, this is my Patty thoughts, or I'm going to really kind of think about her this time?
Yeah, definitely if there are times when it's like, okay, I've been so focused on getting this character's journey going, and now I think I've sort of neglected these other characters, or, oh, because we've moved these scenes around, all of a sudden this character now is really prominently featured in the first half, but not as much in the second half. Is there a way for me to figure out how to find a couple more moments for them later on? Or is there a consistency of their voice that seems to be going in and out? Sometimes as I'm writing something, especially in earlier drafts, I'll find the character's voice, as I'm writing it. And then by the end of the piece, it feels like I've really locked into who that character is. And then I might go back and do a pass of just that character and figure out how to make their voice consistent throughout. Or maybe I'll find something in a scene later on that I'm like, oh, this is something that could be repeated throughout. This is sort of a character quirk or a character's turn of phrase that could be something that they say more throughout. So I think whether it's through one specific character going through and doing a pass, or going through and being like, I'm just going to focus on the transitions between the scenes, or I'm just going to focus on how can I trim excess words or excess lines, or I'm going to go through and just see if there's a way to punch up the comedic moments, or I'm going to go through and I'm just going to focus on this particular relationship between these two characters. There were a number of passes where I was just focusing on Jen and Drew and really making sure, is this working? Is this better if this line is actually given to that character? So yeah, I think anytime you have a focus of whatever it may be, whether it's for a specific character or any kind of set intention when doing a new draft, I think for me, that's always really helpful. And one thing that I try to think about is that each new draft, I think there's oftentimes a pressure we put on ourselves as writers that each new draft has to be objectively better than the draft before it.
Right. We have to feel like we're moving forward.
Yeah. And I think it's a fallacy. I think in actuality, each draft just has to be different.
Right.
And even if it's a draft of one scene, it's like, okay, I rewrote this scene and it's actually not closer to what I'm hoping it is, but I learned something from
Right, of course.
And I think taking the pressure off, and I'm saying this, to take my own advice as well this way, but I think there is this pressure we put on ourselves that each draft has to be better. And I think if you're doing a pass that's just on a specific character, and even if you feel like you know less about that character from that pass, okay, that's helpful information. There is no pressure that the draft as a whole has to be objectively better from one draft to the next. It just has to be different.
Yeah. You mentioned Jen and Drew. There's a scene in the middle of your piece that is the scene that has stayed with me the most. And it's the scene that you wouldn't imagine would be in this play about the hotline necessarily. It's not really about keeping people from, taking their own lives, but it's so true to that world. And it felt like I was seeing something that I would never normally get to see, which is what it's like for these two people to work together in this place. And if I were New York Times and I was doing anatomy of a scene, this is the one I would want to break down. Drew comes in the morning with a Starbucks and a scone from Starbucks cup. And at one point, Jen, who does not have that kind of money, remarks that even just seeing a Starbucks cup sends a message to her. And now when I see people just parading in with that, I'm like, oh, not everyone can do that. And she's barely making enough money to get by. What it's like to work at it and the difference between where they are socioeconomically. They have a similar job, but they're worlds apart day to day. Talk to me about why you wanted to include that scene, how you thought about it, because there's lines in there that I still think about. I went back and looked at. I just think that scene is really special.
Thank you so much. It's so funny you say this because that is a scene that was really difficult throughout.
Well, I could see people saying, "Oh, you don't need it, cut it." Like I could see people going, "Oh, this is kind of not the theme, really," or it is, but I just loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was a scene that I felt really passionately about including because I think there is a conversation to be had about socioeconomic differences, and I think, especially in a nonprofit space where so many people are underpaid and oftentimes come from some kind of extra form of help, not always, but sometimes, in order to be able to afford working at a nonprofit to help those who are underprivileged, you have to have some sort of external privilege of some kind.
There's a line. I'm looking at the line right now. Can I say it?
Yeah.
Okay. Jen says this. Most people who work here couldn't afford to without some form of external help. the catch-22 of the nonprofit space. You usually have to come from a privileged background in order to afford helping people who are underprivileged. I think that says something important about our society, and it really landed with me.
Thank you.
Drew, the male character in the scene, has a rich husband. And it's not a thing, but it's totally a thing. Of course it's a thing. And at one point, Jen says, and I felt a shudder go through me, she goes, "Do you even remember the last time you paid a bill that wasn't set to auto pay?" And I felt like half the audience went, we know that. Yeah. We know that. Because we also know times in our life when we could have maybe been on auto pay, but now we can't. Do you know what? Like, we're aware of there's no bagels. Fuck. That was going to be my breakfast. Like, the dollars and cents of it was so vividly, and they're both trying to be so nice to each other. Like, I didn't realize like, they're all trying to tiptoe and not offend. And yet these issues come up. I just love that scene and the way the actors portrayed it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I think one of the things for me in that scene as well is that these are genuine questions that they each have for the other person that I have as well.
Right.
You know, that it's like, there aren't clear answers. It's like, you know, should I not get a Starbucks because there are some people here who can't afford to get a Starbucks?
Right.
Genuinely wondering, you know, and I think that, to me, that's the exciting thing about that scene and about writing in general to me, is like being able to drop into messy, complex things and not necessarily have a clear answer, and to watch characters struggle to try and figure out how to move forward. And one of the things that was challenging about the scene, and we saw this in auditions as well and working on this scene over time, a lot of people's impulse was to play it as a fight, you know, that this is a fight scene between these two characters. And I think, to your point, part of the magic of the way that Tommy Dickey and Brittany Visser play this scene in particular is they're playing the love that these two characters have for one another, and sort of the uncomfortability about the differences in their worlds, despite being so close as colleagues and coworkers and friends. And I think that allows the audience to really see themselves in both characters, because I think audiences will identify with Jen at certain points in the scene, and then they'll identify with Drew at certain points.
For sure. It's very shifting. Yeah. And they're both trying to be nice, but now that things are out, Drew's like, I still shop at Old Navy and I drive a Prius. Like, I'm not that big of a rich asshole. Like, they've got, like, it's just so, I haven't seen it before depicted like that. And I think it also gets at this tiptoeing. You can understand why some people would say, screw this world, screw doing good. I'm just going to get my corporate job. I'm going to cash my check. I'm going to pretend don't see all the suffering in the world. And I'm just going to try to have a good life that way. And I think the message of your play is, no, it's worth it. It's important, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about what you were just trying to say generally, or what you were hoping to leave people with?
Yeah, to me, it's really wanting to give people a sense of hope, wanting to give people a sense of possibility. Life can be really challenging, and there can be periods in everyone's life that are harder than other periods. And I think just wanting to give people, as they leave the theater, a sense of hope, a sense of connection, you know, and to leave people with things to think about as they're on their way home from the play, but to really show that it is hard work to help people.
Yes.
and it is hard to ask for help as well. I think a lot of times as a society and as a culture, we don't instill in one another the value of asking for help.
Right.
And to realize that there's a tremendous amount of strength in acknowledging that we're going through a hard time and aren't feeling particularly strong right now. That to even say that, to even reach out for help or support in a moment of struggle, in a moment of hopelessness, is a real act of bravery. And there's something so beautiful about the human connection, and there's such a power that comes with that. And that's really what I wanted to try and get at with this play, is the beauty and the complexity and the uniqueness that comes in connecting with people who you might not know at the start of a call. You're strangers on the other end of a line. And just by being voices in another's ear, you can really find a sense of connection and a strength to continue going on, even if it's just for a little bit longer, and then you call again and you reach out for that help and that support. And I think we can do that in our own lives with friends, with family, with strangers, whatever it might be. And I think really kind of connecting to that sense of what it means to be human, what it means to help and to be helped, and to leave people with that sense of hope in the goodness that really is at the heart of all of us as human beings.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that there are things in the production that are so lovely. And Ken Sawyer, the director, I've had him on the podcast before. Yeah. You guys do really interesting things, like you make the audience feel like they're part of the training group, like we're spoken to directly, like we're going to be volunteering. That's really interesting. And there's a musical component to your show. Can you talk about that and how that came to be part of the show?
Yeah, that is really thanks to Ken. And this was something that he was really passionate about from the beginning. It's something we had worked on a staged reading of this in the summer of 2024. And that was my first time getting to work with Ken, which was wonderful. And music was incorporated even at the staged reading. And as we were approaching the opportunity to do a production of this, he said, I really want there to be music in this. And I said, I think we have to do it. It was so helpful, even in just the staged reading, in terms of providing a through line and sort of an emotional connective tissue throughout the play, that being able to see how that came to life through the production was just amazing. And Joe Chase and Lou Roy composed original music for the play and really just were tremendously helpful in terms of being so in tune with the emotional heartbeat of every scene, every transition, and really listening to the other actors on stage, listening with Ken, listening to my contributions to figure out how music could help be a part of telling the story. And I can't imagine the play without it. It really feels so integral.
And there's a wonderful singer that plays the guitar and sings. Yeah.
So Lou Roy and Joe Chase, who both composed the music for the play, alternate.
So these are original songs,
different performances.
Is she singing original songs for this show? Wow, she's fantastic.
Yeah. I think you saw Lou Roy perform on opening night.
Yeah,
and both Lou and Joe just have such a beautiful sense of musicality, but there's such a raw vulnerability to the way that each one of them performs that just gets to the heart of audiences and just sort of sets to music the emotional soul of what's being, exposed on stage. Yeah. And so there's something really visceral about hearing that music and hearing their voices. It's just beautiful. It really has been a joy to watch and listen to.
There's so much texture in every element of the whole thing. Like, as I said, I'm taking this playwriting class and I went and saw that and I was like, oh, wow, this is really thought through. Like, there's so much inspiration and thought and care. You strike me as a writer who's very open to taking things in, not like I have a worldview and I'm going to tell it and this is me and I'm, you know what I mean? There are those writers that's their brand. You seem more malleable, open in a way. Does that resonate? Do you understand what I'm saying? In terms of a voice?
I take that as a huge compliment. I think I am somebody who firmly believes that I would prefer to be the dumbest person in a room and to be surrounded by collaborators who are smarter and wiser than I am. At the end of the day, when you're creating a piece of art, especially with theater, it's a collaborative process. And so I think to be open to hearing other people's ideas and other people's visions and other people's skill sets that they could contribute and help to enhance the vision that you have only helps you. Yeah. And there have been times where, things were offered or thought about or proposed that did feel like they were too far in contrast to sort of what my vision was. So I really try to hold true to what is at the heart of what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to do, but I'm very open to other thoughts and ideas and perspectives on how we can all be telling that same story. So as long as we're all still telling the same story, I'm very open to different ideas and thoughts, and let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? We try it and it doesn't work. And I think that has taken time to develop, that the sense of, I guess, confidence in knowing what it is that I'm trying to do, but being open to trying new things. And I think it also is a testament to the collaborators I had on this play and to working with Ken, who I think we each allowed the other to try new things and let's see if maybe this scene works better here than it does over there, or let's try it if we add music in this moment, or let's try it if we set this in a different location. Okay. And some of the time those are wonderful discoveries, and some of the times it just doesn't quite work. But I think being able and willing to try different things, to me, is where the real magic happens. I think it's getting out of your own way, putting your ego aside and trusting that everybody is truly there to tell the same story. And there are people who are coming at it with fresh eyes, with fresh perspectives, with new ideas, with different ideas, different viewpoints, different experiences. And all of those, can only help, really. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Does this feel like a new plateau for you? Because I know you've done plays before. You've done a lot of different fellowships. You've had things produced. Does this feel like a new place in terms of your journey as a writer?
It does for me. This is the world premiere production of this particular play. It's my first production in Los Angeles. And there's something really, really gratifying about being able to have a production in the community of artists that I'm a part of.
Right.
And especially something that I've been working on for years, and being able to continue to develop it and to have it resonate with audiences on the level that it has, to be getting an extension, to be selling out performances. It's a really special experience, and it does feel like it's on a different level in some ways, and it feels like the culmination of so many different people who have been involved and touched this project over the years in different capacities, whether it was around a table with some friends just hearing it out loud, or in a more traditional sort of professional staged reading setting, or in rehearsal rooms, or whatever it might be. It feels really exciting to be able to have the production turn out the way it has, and to be reaching audiences the way it has. It feels like a uniquely special show. Yeah.
I had my first reading last night of 10 pages of my play through Bernardo's, our class. We had our thing. So every playwright had 10 minutes. We had actors. I brought a couple friends in and used some people from the class. And it was so thrilling to hear even those 10 pages come to life in a way. I was so thrilled by it. I'm like high from it. I don't know. It was just like, I just was like, this is fucking amazing. It was like a drug almost. Can you talk to me about that feeling? Because nobody's doing this for the money, right? What is it? When did you fall in love with it? And how do you describe whatever this is that I just caught, apparently? Yeah, it was like, more that. It's almost like a drug. I'm like, I couldn't go to sleep last night. It took me a long time. It was just so gratifying and exciting and moving. And I loved everybody there and the other playwrights and their other thing. Like, I was just like, and we have snacks. Like, it was just the most fun night. I was so into it. Into it.
I think there's something really ancestral about storytelling.
Yes.
And I think there's also something that is childlike, not in a juvenile way.
No, but I felt like that energy of a kid.
Yes. and the limitless possibilities that we see as children that then, time and society and culture sort of tell us to get rid of. But there's this sense of wonder and possibility and play,
yes,
like genuine play that I think comes through when you are hearing your work brought to life. It is truly magical in my mind. You are going from taking an idea that's in your head and going from nothing to something, and then hearing it come to life through the voices and bodies and movements of other people who are embodying these characters that have been floating around in your head that you've expressed on paper that are now coming to life. I mean, I have so much respect for musicians. I am not a musician myself, but I would imagine it's similar to what a composer might feel when they hear, a violinist or an orchestra or a band bring their composition to life. And I just think that there is something, again, like deeply human about it. And there is something that is so connected about having something that is deeply felt on your end and having it be brought to life through other people and having that people connect with audiences. I mean, it's a truly vibrant communal type of experience that I think, it's therapeutic, it's cathartic, it is restorative, it's inspiring to be around. You're right. It's not about the money, but to me, it's about so many other things that it is thrilling. And, it's hard to find those moments because so much of writing is done in solitude. Even if you're a part of different groups or classes, the writing itself is you and the page.
Yeah.
And I think any opportunity you have to then take that page and bring it to life, it refills the well of creativity and play and possibility. And that, I think, is something that we all want in our lives. It's certainly something that we seek in the types of entertainment and media that we consume. And I think for me, it's why I continue to do this.
It feels a little bit like a drug. It feels a little bit like, I need another hit of that.
Absolutely.
Do you remember when you first fell in love with it in that way? Do you remember the first rush of like, oh, this?
That's such a great question. I think for me, I went to college for acting and was sort of writing as a hobby on the side.
Right.
I felt like there were people who already knew they were writers from the time they were 5, so it's too late for me.
Right.
But I just enjoy this, so I'm going to do it on the side. And there were classmates of mine who I thought were phenomenally gifted, super talented, and yet were being given scenes in class that I didn't think really tapped into what made them so special and exciting to me.
Right.
So I started writing things for classmates of mine to try and capture the magical essence of who they were.
Right.
And I think being able to write for people that I knew, that I was in awe of with their talents, and being able to find a vessel for them to express what I saw as magical within them, that to me was really exciting. Like being able to capture the brilliance of them through words that I put on a page. I'm not coming up with new words. It's like we all sort of have the same bucket of words and I'm just putting them in this particular order and they're being said by somebody else. But to me, I think that's where I started to feel the magic, which was feeling like I was really able to create something that, that felt alive.
Yes.
Being able to see the difference between an actor who's doing a scene from Tennessee Williams, which is extremely well written, but might not necessarily be the best fit for that particular actor.
Right.
And being able to write something that was really right for that particular actor and seeing what it was like when the writing and the acting and the experience came alive. That to me was where I started to really feel like, oh, I've got to keep doing this.
Yeah, I guess I'm hooked. Tell people how they can see your show, and then I have one more question for you, but what they need to do to find out about it, or anything you want to plug in that way.
Sure. We are playing from now through March 14th at the Road Theater. Tickets are available online at the Road Theater's website, which I believe is roadtheater.org. And we would love to see you. Tickets are selling fast, so don't wait.
Dawdle. No, it's so good.
Definitely get your tickets.
It's so good, and I hope you get extended again and again. Here's my final thought. You mentioned it a little bit before, but talk to me about the reactions to the piece, because I wonder if any of your people that you knew from the Trevor Project have come. I bet people tell you stories afterwards. I bet it's different than some shows in terms of the way people will probably open up to you afterwards. So just talk about what that's been like.
Yeah, it's been really powerful to have different people share, people who are close friends of mine, who I, think that I know a lot about, and who have shared things with me afterwards that I was unaware of about their personal lives. I think everybody in some way, shape, or form has been touched by suicide or touched by loss in some way. And so I think having people connect to the play and being able to share what it's meant to them really means a lot. There was somebody who came up to me after one of our first preview performances, this young woman who came to see a friend of hers who was in the show, and afterwards came up to me and said, I think I'm going to sign up to be a volunteer. I was so invested in the lives of these characters and what they're doing, and I really want to find a way to give back. And that to me made it all worth it. Seeing people's experiences with the play, having it be an opportunity for them to open up about experiences in their own lives, to have it inspire them to find ways to give back, to inspire conversations that they said they've had, or people that they've called to check in on after seeing the play. That to me is the power of theater. It's the power of art. It's the ability to connect and change people. Not in any sort of drastic or dramatic way, though that sometimes happens, but being able to have people think about something a little bit differently, or to reach out to somebody, or to sign up to volunteer, or to do more research about something, that makes it all worth it. So it's been an extremely rewarding experience, and getting to hear people's response and getting to hear which characters people connect with.
Yeah.
And to hear who people identify with within the play has been really exciting as well.
Have you heard people that work in that world the way Drew and Jen do?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually worked quite a bit with Dee Dee Hirsch, the local 988 Lifeline here in Los Angeles. And we did a talk back with them following one of the first performances. They gave feedback on the script as well. And a number of their staff and volunteers have come to see the production, and hearing from them that, they were some of the people I was most worried about to hear,
right,
because I want to make sure that they feel exactly. And so getting their blessing, and to hear from them that they felt so seen, and that they felt like their work was valued and was depicted with a sense of truth and warmth and complexity. One of them said that it made them take even pride in the work that they do, seeing how much it was impacting audiences around them. And, you couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, just having people who are doing this work day in and day out come and see this and feel seen and feel represented. That's something we all want and desire in the media that we consume and the art that we consume. And so to have people who are doing this incredible work feel connected to it has meant a ton.
Well, also you see how hard it is, how much thought goes into it. You have to say the right things. You can't do this. You should do that. I mean, it's not like, here's a phone, go. Like, it's a lot to and you capture those different specifics. There's a statistic I think you show about how many people reach out to these hotlines. And that was striking. And also, I think there have been budget cuts federally, right, in this world. Yeah. So all of this happening now is just it's an interesting piece to see now. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's unfortunately timely. Is how I describe it. I wish we were in a moment where it didn't feel timely.
Yeah.
But I think it just speaks to the importance of these types of resources and the importance of eliminating the stigma that surrounds mental health in general, but particularly suicide, and particularly reaching out when you're in a time of crisis, or when you have somebody close to you who's in a time of crisis, that you're reaching out to, help on their behalf.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for this conversation. Everyone should grab a ticket and go see Lifeline at the Road Theater. It's gotten extended, but it's so good. I'm not surprised it's selling out. And congratulations, and thank you for this conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Dennis. It was great talking with you.
You as well. Thanks again to Robert Axelrod. Go see the play Lifeline if you can score a ticket. It's a hot ticket, and you can get tickets at roadtheater.org, and it's theaterre.org. Okay, so this happened. Like I mentioned in the interview, we had our showcase for my playwriting class. Everybody did 10 minutes from their piece. Most people did the first 10 minutes. And we had a small audience there, and I didn't know what it would be like. I was excited about it because I really like the people in the class, and I do just love the world of that class, and I've had such a great experience in it. But I had a few friends come to support and watch, and then other people did too. Some people had their own actors. I had two actor friends of mine reading. Felix Pyre and Ted St. James read two of my parts, and then one of my classmates, Christopher Moncayo Torres, read the other part, and another classmate, Dulce Valencia, read the stage direction. So that was my little group, and it went really well. I don't know, certain things make me nervous, like, oh my God, and then other things I'm more comfortable with, and this felt, I was really into watching the actors and the story. I was into my story. I was like, it was alive. There was something alive about it with me, and it got some laughs, and the actors did such a great job with finding the comedy, and like things landed, and it's the first 10 minutes. There's a whole lot of other stuff that happens and has to be figured out, but it was a very big confidence boost and enthusiasm boost for me. I was just high from it. I came home and I couldn't fall asleep, and I was sort of thinking about it and thinking about, what's coming up in the play and like the other scenes, and I was just excited about it. I love those people, and I think what I was feeling as I was kind of running around, and we were signing a card for Bernardo, the teacher, and some people had brought flowers and people had brought food, and it's just being in things with people, being part of a group, trying to do something. Like the camaraderie of it, the connection with people. That's what it is. It's the other people. And, God, I just loved it. And I signed up for his next session, which starts in a few weeks. And I think I have an idea for a different story. I can't just work on the same one. I have to have a new thing. So, but I kind of got bit by a bug, I think, last night. And so we'll see how it goes. I will keep you posted on it. But it was thrilling. It was super thrilling. So yay for theater. We love it. We're into it. All right. Before I let you go, I want to give a shout out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye.